So our speaker tonight is Jenny Murphy. She is a native of Texas. She came here to attend Washington University, where she got a degree in sculpture, and she has stayed. And in 2011, she started Perennial, which she's going to tell us about tonight. So please help me welcome Jenny Murphy.
Cool, so just before we get started, has anyone here been to Perennial before? Okay, well, I'll try to give you
I've your website.
Oh,
yeah, I keep wanting to go there.
So I'll try to give you a good sense of it and hopefully convince you should stop by. So Perennial, in case you're not familiar, we're a nonprofit that's based in St. Louis. It's all about creative reuse. So our mission is to build a creative culture of sustainability in which discarded items are transformed into valued and cherished resources. So this mission came out of seeing this. Is this a familiar scene to anyone? As an artist, not even as an artist, but also as a person, since I was really young, I've always been interested in the things that people throw away. And when I moved to St. Louis to study sculpture, I became even more interested in these objects just as a resource for materials for projects I was working on. And started studying a lot about just the development of consumerism and even just the development of the department store. I took a course in that. Somehow that was offered when I was at WashU. But all of these kind of things combined to make me really question why we were throwing all of this stuff out. And I started to see these materials not just as materials for my studio, but materials that could be in anyone's home. And I also just have an affinity for these objects and feel like I personify them to a certain extent and, feel bad for them and want to take them in. And it just got to the point where I realized I really could not take it all in. So that was sort of where Perennial came from, is that I realized, well, if I can't take it all, I really need to start helping other people see the potential in these goods. And I recognized that I was seeing the potential in a lot of them because of my background in the arts, because I had knowledge and practiced the creative process. So this was really kind of the baseline for how we thought about Perennial, is that creativity is a really key tool to live resourcefully, self-sufficiently, and sustainably. And it's not only key, but it's a really accessible tool. So the idea that when you think about living a sustainable life, that if you don't have the money to put solar panels on your house, that you have your own personal creativity to reuse things, to be more self-sufficient and sustainable. So what we do at Perennial has a few different names. So has anyone heard the term, I think upcycling is probably, okay, so everyone's heard it here, but it's not that common of a term sometimes. But repurposing, upcycling, we use creative reuse a lot, and just the word reuse in general too. But what we do is kind of a little bit more flair than just reuse. It's creative reuse. So we're not just taking a jar and using it as a glass, which I do anyway, but it's more taking our jar, transforming the material in some way, putting our own touch on it, making it really personalized and beautiful too. So not only does the idea of creativity improve your life in all of these ways, but it also just helps, I think, create a community in which we have beautiful and really unique environments around us compared to, mass production of products that's normally in our homes. So with these ideas in mind, the concept for Perennial, this was an old sketch that I made, was always that there would be, oh wait, there's a laser. Can you guys see that? There would be a little retail store where we could sell repurposed things. There would be a space to teach people how to do it themselves, and then storage is essential because we have lots of junk, right? That we need for our materials. And this was, when I first started thinking about this was like 2008 when I was still in school at Washington University. And from there, founded the organization in 2011. And now, this is our sketch. So this is actually a sketch I made of our shop. So when you walk in the front door here, we have this little retail space up front. We have our classroom and workshop, our kind of wood shop. We have space back here for crafting. We have all of our junk and lots of tools and supplies that we teach and make with every day. So this is what the workshop looks like. It was a really fun project to build when we moved into this space on South Broadway. So we're on South Broadway. If you're familiar with Carondelet Park in the city, we're south of Carondelet Park. And the space was just a big white box. So we built out the entire interior with found materials. And it's a great place for inspiration and also just an illustration of what we're all about. So I do a talk called Trash Talk, where I discuss the great places to find good junk around town. And I always tell people, if you want an idea of what you can find in an alley, just look around our shop, because this all came from alleys in St. Louis. And our organization is split into two arms. So one is our educational programs and one is retail. With our educational programs, we offer classes to the public that range from building furniture from pallets to reupholstery to natural textile dyeing, making rag rugs, anything that has to do with teaching people DIY or do-it-yourself skills combined with a reuse component. So we have a lot of different artists from around town that share their skills at our shop. And we try to get a broad range of things that we're teaching, along with a broad range of materials that we're reusing. Similar programs we also take to local social service agencies. So in our outreach programs, we work with women in transition, and we bring smaller reuse projects to agencies. We work with the Center for Women in Transition, Shalom House, Lydia's House, St. Patrick's Center. So we're working with homeless women, survivors of domestic violence, former prisoners, and teaching them very similar things that we teach the public. But I think in these cases, they're really impactful because a lot of these women are transitioning to independent living for the first time in a long time, or the first time ever. And so giving them some creative skills to make what they need, to be resourceful and economic, is really empowering at that point of transition. So we continue to add new partners, but every month we visit all four of these locations, and our teaching artist has a new project every month. And then the other aspect I talked about was retail. So we make DIY kits and reuse tools to sell. So we package a lot of our classes now into kits that you can purchase to work at home. And we're also developing more digital and online materials with those slowly in order to expand our reach outside of St. Louis too, in terms of reuse. So, I forgot a prop, whatever. So, the idea of repurposing and creative living, I think people can come at this in a lot of different ways. So not only really consciously thinking, I want to create something from found materials. What do I need? What could I create in my garden, in my home? But also it can come out of a need. And I think oftentimes when we need things, our first thought is to head to the big box store and pick it up and come home. So my example of this is, this was my notebook. And I visited my parents in Texas, and they had a new dog. And so when we left to eat dinner, we came back, and I keep a serious notebook where I make a huge to-do list and keep everything organized. So this was very traumatizing for me. And when I got back to St. Louis, I thought, okay, well, this was a regular composition book you'd get in an office supply store. I need to go grab another one. And I thought, wait, this is a book for an organization that's all about reuse. Like, I'm not gonna go to the office supply store and buy one. So I thought, what do we have, at the shop and even at my own house that I could use? So instead, this is like the third iteration of this notebook, but I took an old book and took the pages out and rebound it with my notebook paper, with my staff meeting sheets, with a folder, with some pockets for fun, and created exactly what I needed myself. And that, not only saved me money, because I made this all from things that weren't being used, but it also gave me this beautiful notebook that's super unique that no one else has, and I custom fit it for my needs. So there's, not only those, and I'm not buying new materials. So I'm not spending money with companies that have, processed new trees, that have used a lot of resources and energy to create something for me to buy. I'm using myself as that resource. So our goal is that we take all of these things that are around our communities and turn it into something instead that looks like this, where people are creating what they need, they're learning new skills, and they're using things that they might otherwise throw away, or at least starting to think about those things that they might throw away in a new light. So it was mentioned in the announcements about this presentation that we were going to have some audience participation. And that's going to happen right now. So we're going to do a redesign challenge, which is a brainstorming activity that we do often. We do it actually at the beginning of all of our outreach programs, and we incorporate it into a lot of our classes. But it's something that we do to help people start reconsidering things that you think of maybe in just one way. So if you guys wouldn't mind, we're actually going to gather around the tables behind these chairs. And you see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. If we can split into groups of 4, so there can just be 4 people around each table, and then maybe more or less just make it work.
Lights, camera, they are
Great. Make it more interesting.
We're gonna sit.
Oh, you can stand or sit. Let your brain work better standing. So at each table, if you want to pick a scribe, so someone that's going to write down what you guys are talking about, and that scribe needs a paper and a marker color that they like. If it's dry, then can't promise.
Well, I did the best I could.
No, I'm not really nervous. I'm not really
So we can have 3 groups, and then if someone wants to.
Oh, actually, just this piece of paper and a book.
All right, so everybody can describe. You got someone that's going to take notes for you got a scribe.
Yeah, that's fine. Easy. Now, what do you do?
You got it. So
What are we doing here? Oh.
is everybody write down? The first one's going to write this down. Your team members are going to be. We're all going to be brainstorming. So the scribe is just going to be recording everything that's being said. So then they can write that later. So there's also an object on each of your tables. And this is going to be the object that you guys are going to be considering. So can this team hold up the object on your table? So good job. All right. And what does this table have here? T-shirt. And what do you guys have here? Beautiful. All right. Pretty good. So whenever we're working on projects at Perennial, whether it's T-shirt or a piece of furniture, what I always recommend that people do is to really get to know the item that they're working with. Because you can't really figure out what you're going to do with something. It's become its best friend. Because you can't really figure out what you're going to do with something until you know the characteristics of it. So even with, and I also kind of technical about it in terms of like being, yeah. Oh, where's the camera? Sorry. So if you guys think about like almost like being a doctor to a certain point, this is your patient. You need to figure out everything that's going on with it so you can get a good assessment to figure out what to do with this thing. So our first task, and I'm going to time you guys. So before we get started, just listen to these instructions. So if you look up on the screen, we've got our first task is to get to know our item. So our goal, and I'm going to time you, so don't get started yet, is we're going to write down 20 characteristics of the thing. So that's color, that's texture, that's smell, I don't know if you want to taste it, but anything that you observe about this item, what it's made out of, what would happen if it got wet, what would happen if fire came to it, you know, all of those things, we're going to write down. The other thing about our brainstorming process that we use at Perennial is that we really don't want any censorship. So whatever you think of, whatever you're associating with this item, just say it out loud and write it down, because you never know if it could lead to a great idea. So the scribe's job is to participate in this, but also to listen well to what everyone's saying and record everything. So our goal is to have 20 characteristics. So we're not thinking about new uses yet, we're just thinking about what this thing's made out of, what it looks like, how it feels, how it reacts to the environment. And I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
So this is also, will force you to really think fast and just say whatever and write it down. I'm going to start my timer and you guys can get going.
Are we ready?
We are going to start right now. So write it down.
It may break in fire, it may crack, possibly in freezing temps, numbers and dots along the base, and it's waterproof. And we got 17.
Nice. So some of those, I think, are really helpful that, you know, if you just think, if you look at a jar and you think this is a jar, when you don't take the moment to really think a little deeper about it, even like it rolls, you know, like that immediately in my head, and hopefully after this, your heads too, maybe your heads, but what else do we use that rolls? What else could we use it for? Because it is kind of like a wheel. It could be, you know? And it right, yeah. And even the idea of, you know, noticing that you can twist something onto it, or it can break, like that it could be smaller, that it's a circle, other ways that you would need or use a circle, or, you know, some of those observations can lead to those next ideas. Materials.
So ours is we said it's fabric, 100% cotton, no seams, flexible. When wet, it sticks. Stretchy, long, cuttable, flammable, wrinkleable, cylindrical, holds water, reversible, bendable. There are openings, holes. It's blue. The size is printed on it. It's unravelable. It can take paint, so it's a paintable surface, and it's made of thread. Thanks. Maybe that's
Again, there's so many good, even like, I like the idea that it has holes and openings, like, I like envision like tunnelling through it, or, you know, there's just so many ways that you can bounce off of those ideas, and also those observations that are more like what it does. I think you guys said this too, that it's waterproof, and they said that it absorbs water. So how those things, those materials, at a base level, have really different uses, and even though they're in the shape of a jar or a t-shirt, they could be used in many other ways. Cool.
So we have a book. And we said that it is colorful, paper, it will not react well to weather, it has lots of pictures, it's sturdy, it's flammable, it's paper, twice apparently.
It's a brainstorm process.
Very.
It's a lot of paper.
It's lots of paper. That's right, 575 pages of paper. It is terrible, it has staples, and it has a synopsis in it. It is 5 by 7, it is hardbound, it smells like the library. It's busty, it reminded us of our grandmothers. It is Reader's Digest, it's very homey, it has a gold edge, and it's rectangle.
Those are all really good.
Oh.
I also like the idea that you guys wrote that it's tearable, like that it is a little bit more malleable, maybe than like, if you think about the glass is breakable, you guys can cut it, but you've got a little bit of different, and some of those words like homey and things like that, just to think about how, again, that creative side kind of comes into it of that there's, you know, colorful images in it, that it's homey, that there might be something maybe more artistic that you would want to produce with those things, those aspects of it. Awesome. All right, you guys have good foundation to work from. Our next step, which is brainstorm new uses. So we're going to make a list of 20 reuses. Every time we do this activity, people are like, "You're crazy." You will find as it flows. So remember, we just figured out all about these things. We know all their properties. So. And we're going to think big and small. We're going to think taking this apart, it as a whole. You've got tons of possibilities with any of these single items. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And you guys are going to write down, and again, this is the really critical one where we don't censor. So like sometimes I'll look at, you know, it's round and it rolls, it's roller skates, just write it down. We might not know quite yet how to turn a jar into roller skates, but we'll figure it out. So these are just big ideas. Big ideas. All right, I'm gonna give you the go right now.
I wanted to these aren't yours, like an iPad. Oh my gosh, yes. Somehow, yes, it always like fall on the floor. That makes so sure.
with you guys this time. That's great. You guys are gonna go first, so we're gonna hear your ideas. Is everybody ready? I know it's hard to stop. Let's get started. All right, so will you guys like to present your ideas? So we have the book team. All right, let's hear these new ideas, everybody.
Jewelry box, charging station, storage, make cards with pictures, origami, collage, ransom notes, verse, magnet. I'm looking at the criminals. Verse, magnet, scrapbook, photo album, lamp, pedestal, piggy bank, lampshade, fan, Christmas decorations, posters, decorative item, and flower crafts. And some other ones that we're not.
Did you guys find too in your list, sort of like I feel like there were things like, where you said like collage and then like magnet notes and then, but you kind of find that, you're thinking about like, that you can use individual words. And then you go, there's another idea for that, and then another idea for that. And you kind of, your brain starts to flow on.
Because we were thinking we could make words in our magnets and make sentences on the fridge. So then you can also make sentences for other things.
All right, let's do the t-shirt group.
Pillow, scarf, necklace, grocery bag, filter, camp shower, animal housing, spiral clothesline, banner, skirt, mulch, keep weeds down, dress, cozy cup insulator, rags, chair cover, towel, air conditioning when hiking, leg warmers, something you can decorate the tree with, tourniquet, and a costume. I need that tourniquet.
Those are all great ideas. I think the t-shirt is a fun one because when you break it down, you can just have you have like a little yard of fabric, so you can create anything, but it has definitely different, properties than maybe like a sweater would, for sure. You guys tackle that in stride. It's really the direction.
Pencil holder, water glass, knife, rolling pin, cookie cutter, planter, glass sculpture on a tree, paint it, put paper mache on it, glue fabric on it, can be a soup bowl, any kind of cylindrical holder, a terrarium, we can freeze something in it, we can capture rainwater in it, we could cut it up and into a bunch of rings and make a mobile or a wind chime out of it. It could be a pedestal, we could break it up and make a piece of artwork out of it, and it can be a musical instrument.
I heard you, I saw you at the end tapping on it with the pens and listening, like, that sounds good, let me see that instrument. So you start exploring the jar.
Got snow globe is when they get.
So did you guys find in making these lists, how did it feel? Did you feel like you got stuck at points? Did you feel like it was flowing? Did you feel like?
It was surprising. It was surprising how many we came up with, because when you first gave us the assignment, I thought, a lot.
Even though it's a
And we went back to our first list,
Ah,
to
references and ideas, Anybody else find anything interesting in the process?
It was fun to think about all the different uses. I mean, when you put it all together, it's more than a t-shirt. It's kind of what it made it feel like. It was fun to look at it that way. And I think between all of us, there were all kinds of great things, but it did seem to flow nicely.
Yeah. I think too with the process, we think about materials and try to think about materials in new ways often at Perennial. And I found it's easiest when I'm talking with other people aloud about it, and having multiple brains and things in the pot. And also just in terms of the creative process, a lot of it is making a lot of mistakes to get to the right answer. So if we think about a brainstorm list in that way, that takes about mistakes, but we need a lot of ideas to find the best one, the one that you really want to work on. So being able to make a list like this, you can really get to so many ideas for something so small, which is fun of this process. So we can all come sit back down. I have a few more slides. to flow from that.
Opportunities are limitless.
What else I thought?
Oh, yeah.
I read a small
Yeah, right.
That's a great idea.
Right. The more you think about it,
Yeah.
especially when you books.
That's something you could come get.
I have 2 daughters, and
So it's pretty cool to see, the amount of stuff that you can make out of one maybe thing that you might throw away or donate or get rid of. And I always tell people too, especially in our trash talk class, that sometimes the best place for materials is your own home. When you need something to think about what you already have that you could make work for what you need. Because it is, tempting when you start to realize the potential in all these things to start collecting a lot of things. And then you need a storage unit at a studio and a bigger basement. So in starting Perennial, that was a problem I had because I was like, well, now I have this organization, so I have a reason to take all these in. But we've slowly gotten a really good sense of what people are interested in using, what we use in our classes. So we have a page on our website. At the bottom of the website, there's a donate tab, and we update a list of current items that we're looking for. But the other words of wisdom that I will give you that someone else told me is that when you start being really interested in found objects and salvage materials and collecting things for projects, and people start to get concerned that you're a hoarder, you can tell them that the difference between a hoarder and a collector is proud of everything that they have, and hoarders typically are not. They don't like to tell people what they have. So just let them know you're a collector. People give you gruff about saving all of your plastic grocery bags from the neighborhood to knit with or something. So I put together just a few slides of inspiration, and this is similar to some of the items we were talking about. These are all items that we use often in the shop for projects because you can get a ton of them easily. Books, there's so many out there that are no longer being read or used. So we've developed a lot of projects, simple notebooks, tiny little notebooks, cutting them up. The cool thing about, kind of cool thing is that with books, the pages can be recycled, but the actual boards are too dense to be recycled. So the covers, when they recycle them, they actually rip off and have to throw away. So we developed a lot of projects around the covers. I think someone's at a charging station. So this is like where you can feed the cord through the book and have it hidden. Scrap paper is something that you can put in your recycling bin, but also has a lot of potential. So from this is envelopes that have been just the sticky side has been stuck to the one above it to make a little folding envelope, mini matchbook notebooks, paper fans. Leather belts we use a lot. Leather is just a really nice material to work with. You don't have to finish the edges. And at the Goodwill outlet, if you've ever been there, which is the by the pound Goodwill, there's tons of them and they're super cheap. These are hooks for the wall that we designed where a little flap comes down, you can hang things on. A little koozie for a jar. Napkin rings. You always say, I would just wear this in the front and put a straw on it. That's not what it was designed for exactly. Soda cans, they're really easy to cut and emboss. Plant markers.
How do you emboss those?
With a ballpoint pen.
Really?
Yeah, so if you have it on like a piece of chipboard, something that gives a little bit, like a cereal box, and then I'll trace it lightly from the front and then flip it over and be able to see my line from the back. So you have to write backwards on the back. But
So
yeah,
it's like mirror writing, in other words, you have to, okay.
if you want it to emboss out from the front, you've got to write it
On the back.
backwards on the back. But yeah, just with an old ballpoint pen, it'll push out easily. And even like those holes are just like hole punchers, Yeah. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly thin once you take the can apart. It feels really structural just because of the design of it, but it's really thin.
And they're very easy to cut.
Mm-hmm.
Really? With just a regular scissor? Or
Yep.
like a
Yep.
tennis
We use the utility knife to cut it open, and then we just use like paper scissors even. So like grocery bags from old t-shirts, scarf. make yarn out of the t-shirts, headbands. And then wool sweaters too, if you've ever accidentally shrunk a sweater. We made felt. And that material is really great to work with. Again, you can cut it, it doesn't fray. It's easy to sew. So these are hand warmers. They're actually stuffed with rice that you can put in the microwave and they'll heat up and stay warm for about 20 minutes. Gloves, this little pencil holder. And then I pulled some images too, just from around the internet, to look at. This is one of my favorite chair repairs. They stuck a smaller chair inside of a bigger chair to fix because it didn't have a seat. I just think it's really funny. And we talk a lot about at our shop the spectrum of reuse as well. So from need to design, where I tell people one of the best repairs I saw was in an alley where a glass table had a glass top on it, and it was broken through, and someone had just taped a diaper box, like duct taped a diaper box to the top. And I thought, oh, well, I guess they needed a table, and they're done with it now, but, it worked, and that was good for them. And so I think a lot of people feel hesitant to repair things or to work on their own furniture or projects because they feel like they're not a professional, they don't know the real way to do it. But just with a few skills, you can really tackle things, and again, it's just the expectations that you set for yourself. So with this one, they just wanted a new seat, so they stuck an old chair on. And then reuse too, just with furniture. Sometimes it's a matter of a new paint, new upholstery. This person, instead of recaning the back of this chair, added like a canvas strap with some tacks and belts. The headboard to bench project. It's one of my favorites. So all these chairs, and then a new piece of wood as the bench seat, and just a really easy, visual component where they just painted the chairs the same color to tie them all in, even though they're all totally different designs. It really ends up being a pretty cohesive piece. Again, just simple painting. This one's fun. They just cut it and mounted it on the wall to make a small entry table. Doors. This is like a swing table, which seems like a bad idea to me, but it looks cute. Yeah. Tables with suitcases. Kind of look like little creatures to me. Lighting, so creating like a pendant cluster, like a pendant lamp with old smaller lampshades. Teacups, I love this one. Anyone recognize that? Tupperware, yeah. These are really beautiful. Old brandy and like whiskey, yeah. Clothes. You can stick a light in a lot of things. Okay. That's what I've learned from the internet. Oh, sorry. Oops, ladder.
That's cool.
Yep, and just mounted in a way that the weight, rests on the wall, and then the base of it is ladder. This is actually like 4 tables that were the same, stacked on top of each other. So at the top. A really intense version of that. Similar, so this is a little, maybe might have been a dresser initially. They just took kind of all the insides out and replaced with milk crates. And an old dresser to be used as a kitchen island, but definitely, customize the paper towel and the hooks and everything. There's actually, I think the St. Louis Art Museum, or maybe the Kemper Art Museum, has this piece in their collection. This is by Drew Design, and they do furniture design. They're based in Sweden. But they found all these drawers and then built new casing for them. So they do slide, and then it's literally just one of those ratcheting belts. So they would stack them all up and just ratchet it until they would stop moving. So this piece, none of them are the same, because they're all found drawers, but they're constructed in the same way. It's really cool. The garden, I think, is a really easy place to repurpose, especially things that you find in the alley. I find wood ladders all the time, and using them as trellising, super easy. Bike wheels. This is this one is like a tomato, like using a chair instead of a tomato cage, sort of, or celery, I think is what that is. The same, I find these things all the time in the trash, the like expandable hooks. I think this is the only project I've ever seen where I was like, oh, there's something to do with all these things, because they're out there all the time. And then cold frames are really traditional reuse, using the window to build a small greenhouse to extend the growing season. Upcoming events, just so you guys know. There's some flyers out on the table as well, but we don't offer as many classes in April because of just Earth Day events. There's tons of them that we end up going to. But in April, we will release our summer schedule, so that'll be May through August of classes. We have classes every month over those 4 months. But we do have a few more coming up. We have an insect hotel class. Does anyone know what an insect hotel is? So it's a box that you add different materials to that attract beneficial insects to your garden. So you create habitats for pollinators, slugs, and different kind of things you want in your garden to help all your plants grow. And in the class, we'll actually build them. The frame of them will be an old drawer, and then you create different compartments and drill holes for all these different types of bugs. It's a really simple project that's totally reused. And really beneficial to your garden, so it's a cool class. And then the trash talk, which I mentioned before. We also have a mosaics class in April because our last class had a huge wait list, so we added another segment of that. And we also do swaps. So has anyone ever gone to a clothing swap before, or a home good swap? So clothing swap are the more traditional kinds of swaps where you bring all the clothes you no longer wear. And the way we set it up is we have tons of racks and they're organized department store style. And you put your clothes out and then you can just take whatever you want from other people's. So it's just a swap. There's no money exchange. We have a $10 fee at the door. It's a fundraiser for the organization. But we do a home good swap as well. So we're having one of those coming up in May. We had one in January that was, I think we had close to like 100 people come. And so tons of stuff, they might take, kind of call it like a garage sale style. Just in terms of the items that you bring, so anything that's not clothing or furniture. So we had board games, dishware, electronics, tons of things, and just bring what you have and you can take whatever you want. And the last thing on here is we have a restaurant night coming up at Lulu's local eatery in May. If anyone's been there, it's on South Grand. It started off as a food truck, and the couple that runs it, they source all local produce and food. I think it's maybe not vegan, but vegetarian for sure, but you wouldn't know it. It's really good. And they're donating 20% of the proceeds that night to Perennial, and then we'll also have some crafts there for people to do. I guess I didn't say it. It had some more information on here, like at the end of our website, because that's on our website. So our website is perennialstl.org, but definitely check out things that we have coming up on there. And then, like I said, I have flyers on the table leading out of here and also membership forms. So we have a membership program at our organization where if you become a member, you get benefits. You get discounts on classes at higher levels. You get free classes and discounts on retail as well. So definitely check that out. It's a great way to get more involved because you get these great benefits to come down to the shop. But it also helps support all of our programs, so our outreach programs, and a lot of our programs are suggested donation programs in order to keep them accessible to most people, so our members help support all that stuff going on all the time. And then, I think we have questions. Yeah. Any big burning questions? Yeah.
Do you tend to, I guess, what's the age range that you tend to
So
cater to?
most of our classes have adults in them. But we've had classes with like 14-year-olds and 65-year-olds in the same class. So we don't put an age limit on any of our classes. And we also tell people if they have like younger kids that they think would be interested in capable of participating, that they are welcome to participate. And it's really just up to the adult, like usually under like 13, we ask that an adult take it with them. But sometimes in the summer we'll offer a few more kid-centered classes. But really we don't put an age limit on any of them, so they're open to all.
I'm curious about your work with battered women, abused women. Do you see transformation
Yeah, I think we identified that kind of segment of people to work with in our outreach programs, because we also found that in our public programs, mostly women come to our classes just by default. And so we thought, you know, if the general public, women are interested in taking this, it would be great to bring this to women who maybe don't have the resources to come to our shop. And, you know, we hand out surveys at the end of all those classes, and the responses that we get, like, it just asks, did you learn anything new today? Yes or no? And if yes, what? And in January, we did a workshop where we had them make goal boards out of cardboard. So it was they could add calendars to it. It was like their goals for the year, so like thinking about the new year. And one of the women responded to that survey with yes, and it said, with like, well, if yes, what did you learn? She wrote to dream. So there's like, so we'll read them, we'll be like, but then, you know, and a lot of the responses too are like, I learned how to sew. You know, some of it's really hard skills and some of it's way more conceptual. And a lot of times they talk about being more creative or have an opportunity just to be in a space and feel like they can express themselves. For the first 2 years that we were in our shop, in 2012 and 13, we actually worked with the Center for Women in Transition, which works with former prisoners. They have transitional housing in our area, and so the women can actually walk to our shop, and we did a program, it was a 5-week program where they came to the shop and they fixed up a piece of furniture, and then they would have the option of keeping it, selling it, or selling it. We had a show at the end of each year, and it was really great because it's just a very different relationship that we got to build with those women compared to the programs that we do now where we go once a month. We see the same women, you know, over and over in those months, but to be 8 hours at our shop for 5 weeks, you know, every week. And I think through that program, we did a large evaluation of it at the beginning of last year, brought in some outside evaluators to talk to past participants and see, you know, what they're interested in and what they really liked about the program, what they didn't. And I think we heard a lot of it, you know, Perennial felt like home, that it felt like a place that they, again, could express themselves, that they not only learned a lot of skills, but felt more, you know, sure of themselves as well. And we could physically see that too with some of the women that came from CWIT. You know, there was this one woman, Dina, who was barely make eye contact with anyone when she first came to the workshop. And by the end of it, she was just beaming and so proud of her work. And now she, you know, has a job. She lives in the neighborhood in her own apartment, and she's a successful, you know, community member. So we're actually starting a new program from that evaluation. Really, what we found was just that the issue with the populations that we work with is that their schedules are crazy, just because they have a lot of requirements. A lot of them are in drug treatment, and a lot of them, you know, they have to report to parole officers. They have to do tons of things. So we're doing a studio program starting next month, where on every Wednesday, any of the clients from our partner agencies can apply and come to our shop to work on self-directed projects that have to do with reuse. So they can come and use the space, and our artists will be there to help them identify a project they want to work on, make a plan, and then continue to come back and create something for themselves or for a friend or family member. Yeah.
Do you have volunteer opportunities?
Yeah, so we have, on our website, there's a button at the bottom. You can fill out a form to volunteer. Most of our volunteer opportunities are helping out at the shop. A lot of it is helping us prep materials. So I just tell people the process of creative reuse, about like 75 to 80% is like cleaning and cutting and transforming to the next stage. So when we do, you know, workshops, even our outreach workshops, we did paper making this month, and so we had volunteers help just tear all the paper up to get it prepped for the classes, and we do a lot of community events as well, where we'll craft with young people and adults and everybody. So Saturdays and some weekdays we have volunteer hours. We can come down to the shop. But if you fill out that form, then we'll get in touch with you and find time to come down. Yeah. So you and then you.
Okay, this is great. A lot of things that I have in my garage or wherever are just going to get pitched out because they're not, I don't know how to fix them. I don't have the tools.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if they, you know, I always wonder, is it worth it to keep them?
Mm-hmm.
And where am I going to put it if I fix it, type of thing. If one were to take a picture of, you know, like an item that needs to be fixed,
Mm-hmm.
and give it to you or someone, could you tell us if it's possible for us to fix it or
repair it.
repair it or something?
Yeah, definitely. There's also, on the first and third Saturdays of the month at the shop, we do community workshop, which is a program where the space is open and you can come in and use the workshop, the tools. We have our staff there to help assist you with projects. So if it's something smaller, that's a really great time. You know, we have people show up with a chair that's really wobbly and we help them re-glue it and repair it. Some people come in with a photo from Pinterest and want to make a cool centerpiece out of Coke bottles and salvage wood, and we'll help them do that. So that's a great time because we kind of have me, I'm there to advise and assist and teach more self-directed projects. But you can always shoot an email. There's our business card out there, the info at Perennial, the email that's on there will come to me just with like, is this feasible to fix? You know, questions are totally welcome.
But I definitely have 4 chairs that will end up in my vegetable garden. So.
They're not done yet. Nice.
Bright color.
Cool.
I was just wondering about, you mentioned you have a full-time staff that are there, and then you have various artists that come in. Is it like you would have one artist just shows up and said, I'd like to teach this, or how do you work with the artists? Is it an ongoing relationship, or?
So we do a call for classes prior to our programming seasons. We have 3 seasons throughout the year. And so a couple months before we're scheduling the next season, we'll post that we have an open call. So we get some people that way. And you know, sometimes people approach us with the perfect project for a class, and sometimes they have a skill or a craft, but they're not incorporating salvage materials. So it's a great just learning experience for both for our staff and them, because we get to work together and figure out, okay, well, you know how to make baskets, but like, what can we use that's like from the trash to make baskets? And figure out how to create a program that really fits within our mission. And then there's some skills that people are really interested in learning that we hear through surveys a lot that they want to learn. So we'll seek out artists that we know that, know that skill. So we recently started working with this woman, Stephanie, who runs a company, Ruby Francis Rags. And she's a clothing designer. She makes all of her clothing from found other clothing. And so she teaches some basic alteration classes now at the shop, and also sewing classes, doing slip covers for pillows, making tote bags. And that was we kept getting lots of requests for sewing classes. But now she teaches about 4 different classes with us. The same with woodworking. We're starting to work with a guy who's in Belleville, Illinois, who's going to teach some classes with us this summer, making small woodworking projects all from salvage wood. So it's kind of both. Yeah.
I think a book would be nice, a book of your organization, and if you are considering writing a book about it.
Thanks. I'll add this when I to do this now. We've talked about it, actually.
My main question is, if you considered having a satellite operation, maybe in West County?
We'll see. So on the future, we just did a big strategic planning session with our board, and we're finalizing our plan through 2018, 19.
Wow.
So a lot of what that plan is how we can strategically expand, because this is our 5th year, but we have found, our classes are starting to fill, and we're just gotten to the point where there's only so many days in the week we can have a class, but if we had a space with 2 rooms, then we could have 2 classes going on at once. And so we are thinking about potentially new locations, but also expanding, like I was talking about earlier, into a larger just market through the internet. So using digital marketing and electronic materials to get some more of our projects. We have a lot of content just sitting at our shop that people don't know about, so finding ways to get those out to people. And then, I had brought up the idea with our board that eventually, if we started building all this content, we could then publish a book, which would be really cool.
Lauren was wondering if you could make a whole house out of repurposed materials.
You totally can. You might have to buy your own land and not tell not get permits for it, but you can. You guys should go visit Earth ships. in Taos, New Mexico,
Yeah.
which are made all from salvage stuff. And they're like they're off the grid. Have you guys seen these? They're one of our lead instructor, Teresa, who teaches a lot of public programs, who teaches insect hotel class, and our outreach programs as well. She did an internship at Earthship and learned all their like building ways, but they use tires and wine bottles and tons of cool stuff to build structures.
I'm sorry, but the home goods swap, Sunday, 5/17, isn't that a Wednesday?
Is that wrong? Not sure.
I think the 18th is a Thursday.
Oh.
16th is
No?
Saturday.
Am I right or wrong?
My son graduates on the 16th.
I know it's in May, and it's on our website.
Okay.
No, that is a Sunday.
It is a Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got the wrong date in my calendar.
Maybe a different
For my nephew's
month.
graduation.
Oh.
This is an interesting way to find out.
Well, it's past 8 o'clock. I'm sure Jenny would be happy to stay around if you have any more questions. On your way out, please take a reusable grocery bag and a copy of my uncle's book if you'd like. Please bring it back when you're done. Thank you all for coming, and let's thank Jenny.